And we're live, everybody. This is Dan French with the French Workbench podcast, Las Vegas Experience. And I'm in studio. I got a great show for you guys today. We have a person that is actually in studio, and she came all the way, well, I don't know how far she came, but she came from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. And I'm going to introduce her. We're going to talk about the Moratorium, and also we're going to talk about how Vegas has opened up, and they're now 50% capacity. So I want to talk about this information because it's really good information. People want to know what's happening in Las Vegas. And, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Sabrina Hudson. And she's from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. And Sabrina, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on in such short notice. I mean, You came on. It was great. So Sabrina is somebody that has been writing a lot of articles here in Las Vegas, and I think there's a lot of good information that she's been putting out. And I always dabble into trying to find out what's out there. You know, what articles are out there, what people are really searching for, what they're interested in. And so one thing I want to talk about, Sabrina, is the audience always wants to know, who I'm talking to, right? How did you get started? Where did you come from? You really just give us the whole spectrum of what's going on.
Yeah, of course. So I joined the RJ, it'll be 2 years in August. Mm-hmm. Before that, I was covering business for the Orange County Business Journal. Uh-huh. And before that was The Real Deal, so covered residential real estate. With
so you were in real estate too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, and that's partly what I was covering at the Orange County Business Journal too, was luxury real estate and focusing more on retail. But yeah, I was definitely doing some real estate coverage.
You were doing some real estate coverage?
Yeah, residential and commercial. But always been a business reporter, been doing it for, almost 9 years now.
So it's kind of neat because it's like, well, what do people really do? I think a lot of people don't understand, like, what is the process to become a journalist, right?
Yeah.
How many years does it take? It's like almost like, I hate to say it, but it's a very long process. Is that right?
It is, and the lucky reporters can get into it like right out of school, or they do an internship, but I kind of took the long way. Finished undergrad in 2008, which is like the worst time to finish school.
Right.
So everything was crashing.
Yeah.
Could not find a job, so I essentially just worked part-time. Like I worked at a bank, I worked in retail, did work 2 jobs, then decided to go back to school for online journalism.
Sure.
Because that was the future. And ended up at a traditional newspaper after I finished.
Well, you know what's crazy though is you just never know like where things will end up.
Right.
Journalism's hard though. I mean, you gotta really go out there and you gotta get the stories, right? I mean, is it something that you have to do a lot of legwork on? Like, a lot of people, I think maybe try to introduce how to get started with getting those stories out, and then like somebody takes you under their wing is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But really, how hard is it to go out there and get these people to give you this information, or do you have to? I mean, how long does that process take to get one story? I'm just curious because I'm not sure how it all works. I'll be honest with you.
Well, it's interesting. So like with business reporting, which is what I've always done, it's different and I've worked at trade publications. So like our audience were investors, executives. So, it wasn't as much legwork to get in touch with them.
Sure.
Depending on the business and what the news was,
if
it was good or bad. But, at the RJ, it's different because it's like a consumer-facing paper. So for me, it was a huge adjustment where, I joined covering retail, and Black Friday, for example, like I was thinking of it from the perspective of retail businesses and how they're preparing. But how we would cover it is, well, what does the consumer care about? Mm-hmm. Which I used to say with my friends who were kind of figuring out what I covered, I said, well, I care more about the businesses than I do about, like, the consumer.
The consumer.
Right. But it kind of flipped when I joined the RJ.
So you're saying it's more about, like, the person out there that you take their feelings in consideration more?
Exactly, yeah. So, like, for Black Friday, it was, like, going out on the street, talking to people, finding out, like, what are you buying, what are you interested in, which is, like, so foreign to me to do, but... Yeah, it usually takes, for stories like that, you can turn that around in like a day if you're aggressive.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's like if you're hustling, like talking to every person that you walk by. But yeah, it depends on the story, but it can take a couple days. If you have like a longer project, like a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in Vegas?
Like a year and a half.
Really?
Yeah. Like I moved here on a Thursday in August and then started my job that Monday.
I see.
Yeah. So I was only here for like 3 or 4 days before like I started working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where did you come from?
From LA.
From LA.
So I was living in Long
Man.
Beach. Yeah.
I know it's crazy because I just saw an article today that they were having, the homeless situation. What is it? A lake?
Echo Park.
Echo Park.
It's like
Did
this
you read about
huge
that?
lake. Yeah, I've seen it. I didn't get to read all of the stories around it, but it's like this huge. It's really pretty over there.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, the homeless encampments have gotten. When I left, it was already pretty bad, but from friends, I've heard it's gotten a lot worse.
Yeah, I think too. Like people think, well, everybody's got to have a place to live, and I agree. But there's got to be something that we can do, right? Because it's like they're sitting there protesting about taking the tents down and all this stuff. So it's kind of crazy, I thought.
It is crazy. And, it's, I mean, honestly, you're driving by and it's like, and I'm thinking like, if I'm a pedestrian walking by, like, where would I walk? I would not feel safe walking.
No,
yeah.
I agree. It's weird as I was watching it and they were just sitting there and waving to people like, hey, what's going on? Like, and some people were just ignoring people,
Yeah.
I also saw, another situation where, it's unfortunate, we don't have the answers for this stuff, and it's tough. You want to have something where there's a place for these people to go. They were getting coupons and stuff where they can go and, but a lot of this stuff is really, can be overwhelming if you're not around it a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really can be. So going back, what is some of the stories that you can tell me about getting started? Because we're going to go into a real concise window on just some of the stories and challenges that you went through as far as getting to, not just from LA, but getting here and getting involved with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. How did all that take place?
Like I said, not just the adjustment with how I would cover a story, but just getting acquainted with Vegas and Vegas culture and realizing, I remember one story I did, I could not get anyone to talk to me. I couldn't find anyone. And I had went after work because I was thinking like, okay, 5 o'clock, like everybody's off.
Yes.
Like, it'll be easy to like grab people. And I just couldn't. And my editor was like, you have to remember, like, you're in Vegas. People work shifts. So she's like, not everyone gets off at 5 o'clock. So you got to go at different times of the day. So that was like a light bulb, like, okay, like I'm working in a city that's like heavily dependent on tourism. So, of course, it's not like a 9 to 5.
Yes.
So that was an adjustment, too. And I mean, so far I'm liking it.
Yeah. I think, let me say this. There's certain good things. I'm sure there's good things about Vegas and there's good things about LA.
Right.
Obviously, you're living in Vegas, and I'm assuming you prefer Vegas. Do you miss anything about LA?
I do. Well, because that's where I grew up. That's where my family is. But I know like the hatred for Californians is pretty strong out here. But I miss it because for me it's home. So
I don't know if it's that. I agree. There's some maybe animosity. I don't know about hatred, right?
Maybe that's a little strong.
Yeah. Maybe it's because I think sometimes they just worry that people leave California. They leave these other states to go into a different area or a different place where maybe it's better for them.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better for their family. They don't want to bring all the the stuff that comes with it.
Right.
When you got to look, I mean, we're all human, but I think they're just worried. A lot of these people that have that, they're worried that Vegas is going to turn into like that mini LA, things are going to start to become worse and there's going to be traffic and it's overpopulated and everybody's fighting for scraps.
Yeah.
What you feel the same way, huh?
I think so. And it's understandable. Like it was funny because it was, something that I had talked to our investigations editor about because she, works for a paper in Idaho and they did a story there where they were like Californians are coming and they're bringing their housing crisis with them. So it was like really interesting how, I can understand like the fear of having all these folks from LA coming out here and the apprehension of what they could bring, not just themselves.
Yes,
but,
I agree. And, one of the things that I think people bring is they bring the idea that they're starting new.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing, right? You come here, you're starting new, starting fresh. Sometimes it's a job transfer.
Yeah.
Majority of people that we see, because I do home loans for guarantee rate here, majority of what I see is people pivoting, relocating, maybe getting set up in a better situation where they're selling their house, And a lot of times they're moving here and they got money. And so
Right.
I think it's just a lot of, there's people that come here and they don't contribute, maybe if you want to call it that. But I think most people want to just blend into Las Vegas,
Right. Right. And I can totally understand that. Like, because, yeah, Californians are coming here because it's cheaper to live. But, I can see the fear of Las Vegans being like, well, okay, they're coming here with their money without an understanding of, like, the culture and what it's like. And, why is the cost of living so low? It's because, minimum wage is not that high here.
What is the minimum wage right now?
I think last I checked was $8. Wow. It's under 10. I want
$8.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, I know there's discussions to bring it up to 12 or 14. But yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
I know.
$8. Like, how would somebody actually live off of $8? You would have to, and that's what we talk about.
That's if they have no debt whatsoever. Like, they probably still couldn't live off of that.
No. I mean, you're talking probably living with mom and dad, or you're probably having a spouse that's contributing if you're making. And there's nothing wrong with work. So don't think that, making $8, we're laughing at the situation.
No.
It's just more of, it's just not enough.
Right.
There's got to be more. And we always talk about it where the average consumer out there, especially how homes are going up, the rent's going up.
Right.
We're going to talk about that moratorium here in a second. But the rents are going up. People are potentially going to be evicted. Foreclosures could potentially happen. So there's a lot of stuff that could come up. And it's good to address these things. Have you seen anybody that has been struggling during this pandemic where, you do a lot of articles, you do a lot of things out there. Have they, you've done any stories where people are struggling out there? They're just, trying to make ends meet and they're trying to make their bills. Where do they go? What do they do,
Yeah, and that's something that I asked, especially when I was covering unemployment last year. I mean, that was something that I asked folks who weren't getting their benefits. Like, how are you living? How are you getting food? How are you getting around? Like, you don't have any income whatsoever coming in. Like, to me, I just couldn't wrap my head around, like, and I was thinking of it, like, if I was in their shoes, like, I would not, I'd be moving back home, but some people don't have that safety net of being able to move in with friends or family. So to me, it's just really wild how
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
How people survive and stuff like this. But I mean, you go back, you look at LA. LA is the same. I mean, you get a higher minimum wage. Maybe there's a higher wage earning, median wage earning.
Right.
But what do you do? Like, as these things happen, you're starting to see people out there that have a lot of issues with trying to just pay their rent, pay their mortgage, and it's starting to get better. I know in unemployment. Do you know anything about the unemployment situation here as far as people going back to work? Is it still a problem?
It's still, and that's actually the story that I was working on today.
Oh, there you go.
Which is why I couldn't make it on time. So our unemployment rate, the Department of Labor came out with their stats today or this morning. So for Nevada, the unemployment rate is 8.3%, which is high, but it's lower than it has been.
Right.
Like, the highest we've had was almost 30% in April, which is insane to think that it would ever get that high.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so, like, we were the worst state in the country in terms of, like, having jobless, like, the number of jobless that we had. But, yeah, it's just hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It is. And but I think people are getting back to work. You looked at it, and we're going to talk about this. So Las Vegas. Las Vegas is opening up.
Right.
You got a lot of people coming for it's for the what is it? Not, I guess spring break's going on, right?
Yes.
Okay, is that
just ended?
Just ended. We had March Madness. We had a lot of things going on. What is your take on Vegas coming back as strong as it has? Because there was a time where we saw Las Vegas just really, man, they were struggling.
Yeah.
It was, you saw when you go down there and you started walking around, it was really maybe 1/10 of what we saw, and it slowly progressed. Now we're 50% opening up to everybody, right? What are your thoughts? Like, is Vegas coming back strong? Do you see things happening where we're going to come back and Vegas is really not going to miss a beat as far as we're going to be right back where we were at when this whole thing started?
Right. I think we will. I just don't think it's going to happen quickly.
Uh-huh.
I mean, think like we just made it to 50% capacity for casinos and businesses last week.
Yeah.
And it's great that we had so many folks on the strip.
Yeah.
Like tourists, visitors. I mean, I had flown out to Seattle when I was coming back on my flight. It was packed with
Seattle.
people. Yeah.
I just talked about Seattle.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I told you about so Seattle. Maybe I didn't bring it up to you. My apologies. So Seattle is having the same issue with the homeless problem, right?
Yeah, they are.
Were you there seeing this?
I didn't get to see it, but I am aware of it. Yeah.
You know, and it's one of those things where you can't get around it. Mm-hmm. But Seattle, Portland, these places, these are all places where people go, and it's like, it's kind of shocking, but it's unfortunate. There's a lot of people in a situation right now.
Right.
And it's, I know there's running water. People don't have showers. So,
right.
I mean, it's crazy. So going back, so Vegas is coming back.
I think so.
And I think that it's coming back strong. Mm-hmm. And, there was a lot of things going on down really on the strip where some questionable stuff, right? You got somebody got punched out. You got people down there with guns at one point. I mean, but now it's different. Now it's back to, I think it's safer, maybe. More people are starting to come, and I don't know. I'm really happy about that. So what do you think Vegas is going to be here in a month from now? Do you think it's going to be back 100%?
No.
Not at all?
No, not at all.
Where do you think we'll be at in a month?
I'm kind of more skeptical on that.
Do you go down to the Strip?
Not too much, but I did go when I was covering that story. And I went a handful of times, like to cover when the casinos were reopening last year, covered that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like I had friends who were visiting, but they paused. But so I have been down there enough to where now I know my way around. But
so you put out this article. We're going to go over this article really quick. And this is the article that you just recently put out. Starting to feel a little bit more safe, Las Vegas. And we just talked about that. It's starting to get safe out here. And so, it's not like it wasn't safe, but I do think people were probably looking at some of the news going, what the heck is going on over there, right?
Right.
And so you start to look at this article, and you got a lot of good information on here, So look at this crowd. When was this crowd? When did March 19th?
Yeah, so we went out there. So it was me and a colleague of mine, and then we had, a bunch of photographers, a videographer, a bunch of us folks that were out just basically canvassing the strip to see what it was like.
Okay.
And what the atmosphere was like. And that was probably around like 6 o'clock when we went out there.
And you went down there?
Yeah, and I was probably on the strip until like 10:30 maybe.
Okay.
And it would just get more and more people. Because of course, like the later it gets, like, people are going out. It was packed. I was really surprised at how packed it was. Yeah, it was.
I think too that Vegas, everybody wants to know, like, is the tourism coming back where a lot of people from out of the country. That was a big part of it, was it not?
Right. Yeah, especially with the conventions, and I think that's a huge part
conventions.
Of it.
So conventions you see are they booking or are they already doing it? Because I don't go down there either. I really don't.
And I feel like when you are like living in Vegas, no one really goes down. Everyone's
nobody
like,
goes
not
down there.
To the strip. Yeah.
It's different though. Like you can go and cruise. Mm-hmm. People watch.
Right.
I might do that every once in a while, or go downtown and just see what's changed. But as far as like going to the restaurants,
no,
not really. I really don't. And like I've done the whole thing with where we did shows or we did like went out to eat, but it's a very rare thing. It's maybe once a year. The problem is that I think is that Vegas has everything on every corner almost, right?
Right.
Plus just the challenge to get down there and park, get into the casino, and you're dealing with a lot of different things where people are there and they're just doing the tourist thing.
Right.
So I don't know, maybe it's just the process of getting down there, and plus it's almost like, if you have something in your backyard,
right,
you can get it any time.
Right.
And so you don't maybe put the same value on it as if somebody's traveling here just to be in Vegas to experience Vegas. So
exactly.
I don't know. I think that's maybe what contributes to that. So going back to Vegas, they're opening up. Are they opening up any of the casinos where they're not the casino part, but the nightclubs? Or how about the pools? I know some of the pools have opened.
Some of the pools are opened. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw the footage of Circa and how packed it was.
Circa was amazing.
Crazy. Although I will say, like, their pool looks really great.
No,
like,
it's
I actually
awesome.
do want to go down to that pool.
Yeah, it's awesome, right?
But it was packed with people.
Is it because it's new though? I mean, because you know how everybody is. I want the newest.
That's true.
I used to go to the
know.
Palms. I was at the Palms when it kind of opened up because I've been here for a while.
Yeah.
And when I got to the Palms, dude, it was Ghost Bar was just the place, right? And I'm like, dude, you got to wait at the bottom. You got to like, pay somebody to say, can I jump the line? The line was crazy. You go there now, ain't nobody there.
Really?
I think it's closed.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah.
I'm just saying, it's funny how Vegas changes really quick.
Right.
I mean, in a blink of an eye. And as soon as that hot spot's gone, there's something else going on.
That's true.
So Circa's going to probably be the next thing for a while, or not just Circa, but these other new casinos opening up.
Right.
And then I think after a period of time, it's going to be, well, what's the next casino?
Exactly.
Vegas is always changing.
Yeah. Well, it has to. Like, how are you going to keep drawing like millions of people out here if you don't keep adapting?
Yeah, and it's just got so much money.
I
Like
know.
it's like you walk down the strip and you look at some of these buildings and all this money. It's just crazy how much they put in this one strip.
Right.
It's just crazy to me. So, so we're back at 50%, and I feel that a lot of people are going to start coming here again from California. We already had March Madness. Do you feel it's back to where it's at or close to when like I said, when we first started? Because people, I think, are skeptical a little bit on, letting things happen and seeing where we're at, and 50%. Are people willing to travel now and come out here? I saw a huge influx.
I think so. When it comes to traveling, I don't think people have any kind of apprehension about coming here whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like I said, like I've been on the flights. Like I've always been surprised like how many people are on the flight.
It's like Vegas, baby.
Right.
Vegas. Let's
they
go.
Are ready. It's like, okay.
All right, so let's talk. Okay, so what is Vegas, when you go down to the strip? You have any stories that you have dealt with recently where people are a little bit, maybe they're a little bit more cautious or concerned? Where is Vegas still keeping everything? Because you hear the stories. Vegas doesn't take it as serious. That's what I've heard.
Right.
You look at some of these videos and people are just right there, and they're in the casinos together, and there's not really much distancing. They say you got to distance.
Yeah.
Is there really distancing going on? I haven't been down there, but you've been in the casinos. Are people taking it seriously? They're just like, dude, I'm having fun. I want to gamble. I don't care. Give me drinks.
Right.
Go. Let's go, man. Let's go.
I feel like it's 50-50. Like, so for example, I remember being in Cosmo, because what I did was just walk down the strip. I walked through the different casinos just to get a sense of like what it's like.
Yeah.
And I remember at one of the tables, like these two guys were about to like high five each other, and then they both kind of stopped and were like, oh wait, like we're in a pandemic.
Yeah.
And then they just like bumped elbows. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But I see some people that have double masks. I've seen people who just pulled, like they're in the casino and they just completely took their mask off. Yeah. So I think it's like a bit of both. Like there's some folks who are like a little bit more cautious about like the safety and the social distancing, and then there's some folks that are just kind of like, hey, we're here to party.
Yeah. Do you get nervous about that?
So I was, but now that I've been vaccinated, like even after my first one, I was like, all right, I'm ready. Like, where's the next party?
Yeah, right? Yeah. So you were out and ready to go, right?
Yeah, I was ready to go.
So is there any side effects that you felt other than, I hear some people are tired when they take the vaccine.
Yeah, I got tired. Like my dad, he got his actually a couple days ago, and he had like a fever. He was taking naps. Like he felt exhausted. A colleague of mine, we got ours the same day. Like he felt really nauseous. Yeah. So I feel like it's like all over the place. I just got really fatigued and like body aches. Like you feel like you're going to get sick. That's how it felt, at least for me.
Yeah, you felt like you were going to get sick a little bit.
Like I'm about to get a cold or like a flu.
Yeah. It's funny because my parents got it, and I'm probably going to get it. We're going to try to go to a Carnival cruise at some point. I think you're going to probably, if you leave like out of country.
Yeah, I think they require they're going to.
I'm sure it's going to be, you got to get your vaccine before you leave, especially when you go on a cruise, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But, going back to Vegas and looking at Vegas, so when you go down there, do you feel that obviously there's a lot of people, but do you feel that when people are gambling and everything's going on that, it's not that they're not taking it serious, but does the casinos take it as serious? Or is it like, it's hard to control because there's so many people. Like, how do you control all those people, like I just saw a video, you got people walking around like it's nothing. I mean, they got masks on and stuff, but it's like, how much can you really control? I'm not saying you can't control things, but you got, everybody's flying now.
Exactly.
People are coming here. So, I mean, is there, I don't know.
There's only, like, as an employer, as a company, there's only so much you can do. Unless you're hiring, like, 100 extra people just to walk the floor and follow people around. Like, you can't do it. Like, you can't be perfect at enforcing social distancing or enforcing people wearing masks. I mean, you can do the best you can, but I feel like it's, you have to hope that folks are also going to follow the rules.
Do you see more of the security down there?
Nothing more than what I was seeing pre-pandemic.
Really?
Yeah.
So I would think that because of the pandemic,
like even outside the strip, I feel like I don't see any more cops than I did before. Even though I felt like there was way more crime. After things got shut down. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the same way. So you don't see anybody out there that's like more cops, because like when I go down there, it seemed like there's a cop car always parked. They want to let everybody know the presence of cops are there.
Right.
But I feel like maybe that, maybe they retracted a little bit. I'm not sure, because I would think that because of the COVID,
right,
you would think that not because of COVID, but because of COVID and everything coming back,
and more people
people are, they were stuck in their homes, right, and they were probably going crazy. So it's like, man, I get out, I get to gamble, I get to drink, I get to kind of be free a little bit.
Right.
You would think that there would be more cop presence down there, in my opinion, especially with some of the news and things that's come out, like we talked about, some of the articles and stuff that people are dealing with. There's a lot of people down there too. You ever see those people down there that are like, they're not panhandling, but they're like trying to play games. They're trying to play like games where it's like, hey, pick, I don't know what it is. It's like a poker game, or it's almost like they're hustling without having to worry about having a gambler's license. They're back.
Right. Which I remember pointing out to my colleague. I'm like, okay, things are slowly getting back if you could see them on the strip.
Right. And there's a tremendous amount of women down there that are, I don't know if it's because maybe some of the strip clubs are not opened up, but they're down there taking pictures. Right.
Yeah, I
making that
more
quick dollar.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm sure they probably make a ton of money.
Right.
I'm sure. You wouldn't be down there doing those types of things, right? If you weren't making money. I couldn't see why
you
would
think that you could.
Right. So Vegas is coming back. The strip is starting to really thrive. Anything about downtown? I know you wrote something about Tony Hsieh and what was going on downtown. What's happening with that as far as downtown?
So my colleague Eli's been really good about covering that. But I did help him out a little bit when he was trying to basically figure out which properties were getting sold. So it seemed like the family just put all of the properties under his kind of real estate portfolio on the market.
Yeah.
So hopefully, investors who purchase it are interested.
Have you? So you went down. You've been downtown though, right? You saw how it's all transpiring down there.
Yeah.
They're really cleaning it up down there now. They got Circa. Is it downtown?
Yeah, Circa's downtown.
Okay. What is there another casino that's downtown?
Not a new one.
Not a new one, huh?
Not a new one.
Okay. But it's back to. I mean, I was looking at stuff when it was.
Well, I was there last week on Saturday, and it was fine. It was a little slow, but the restaurants were busy.
The restaurants were busy?
Brunch, of course.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. So you got a lot of things happening downtown, but I don't feel like it ever stopped. Because when you look at all the crowds.
Not for downtown.
No, I mean, the crowds, and these are mostly local people, right?
Exactly,
would you say?
Yeah.
And I think that's where people are like, you know what, I got to go vent. So the locals are like, we're not going to go to the strip.
Right.
We talked about it right now. Where do the locals go? Where they go downtown? Cheaper drinks usually.
Right.
There's more freedom. You can kind of go from casino to casino, and you don't have to stop and park your car. At one point, there was a cost to park your car. I think that went away for right now.
Some places are, some are free.
Yeah, some are free. So there's just a lot of information out there about what downtown's about. And, Tony Hsieh is one of those people that really cleaned it up.
Right.
Or helped clean it up. So I want to go into the moratorium, right? And this is scary, right?
Yeah.
It's scary for people because we're entering into a position where if you haven't been paying your rents or you haven't been paying your mortgage, right? There's ways out of it, but what are some of the restrictions? I'm sure you have people that have discussed this with you, right? About some of the the concerns that they have, things that could happen. So first off, let's talk about that. When does that expire?
It's supposed to expire. So there's two moratoriums. There's a state level moratorium
for Nevada.
That's supposed to expire March 31st.
Okay.
But there's also a federal one, and that's also expiring on the 31st. So next week.
Yes.
So
Are they
both of them?
So that's coming up. That's right around the corner.
Fast.
Very fast. So are they going to extend?
At this point, we don't know. I mean, we've reached out to the governor's office, and it's more of like we're looking it over. We'll get back to you. But like, based on what's happened, last year and previous months, the announcement to extend it came like the day before, which is not great, especially for folks who are facing eviction. So I have a feeling if we do hear something, it's probably going to not be till next week.
Let's look at some of this information here we got right here. So I want to put this in. This is a long position here. So
Yeah.
this is really about an article that you put out recently, right? So this article is about really what they're trying to accomplish. So you don't know if they're going to extend or not. What are your thoughts on the likelihood? Like, what is your opinion? Do you think they're going to extend?
I think so. I mean, I'm not sure if Sisolak will extend it. But I definitely feel like on the federal level, the CDC moratorium, which, the Centers for Disease Control isn't one that actually put out the eviction moratorium on the federal level. That's already getting looked over to see if it would get extended. I think it will, honestly, only because the forbearance and evictions for like single family homes got extended last month? Yeah, that was recent. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do it why would you do it for one and not the other?
Right.
So I would not be surprised if the federal one gets extended. But the state, I'm still not sure.
Well, it's funny because I wouldn't say funny, but it's crazy because you have people that have probably been in this for now a year almost, where they haven't paid their mortgage in some cases. Not a lot, but I think a lot of people chose the route where it ended up, once they got back to work, probably paying that mortgage back. But there's some people, I'm sure, I've been hearing that they put it at the end of the loan, and that's how servicers. But there's some servicers out there that won't do that. Have you heard anything about the fact that servicers? I know it's because you got government, you got federal agencies involved, and you got people just thinking that, well, when this thing goes, am I going to be able to pay all that money all at once?
Right.
Do you see anything happening like that where people are not in a good position where they're having to come up with that money or they're going to be just foreclosed on? Because I know a lot of people are looking at, well, Vegas is going to turn into that whole process again where, with the market crash. I don't see that happening.
No, I don't see that happening either.
Because there's too many ways out.
Right.
There's too much help. What do you think is going to happen though? Do you think most people are just going to be going right back to work and it's just going to be a smooth transition for people that are in that position?
I think for homeowners it will be, but for renters, I don't think so. Just because it's just different. Like you said, with the forbearance and not paying your mortgage, like what you're not paying gets baked into your loan. So I mean, yeah, you're paying it back, but it's not like if you're renting an apartment and you owe all this like $15,000 in rent.
Yeah.
That you have to pay right away or figure out a payment plan for. It's a little bit different. I think for homeowners, they'll probably manage it a little better. Maybe not the ones that have rental properties.
Right. Dude, the ones that have rental properties, they're just stressing, or they were stressing. And they're like, people not paying 6 and 8 months. What are those people that have those properties? Are they paying the mortgage, or are they going to have to go and get the same thing? They're going to have to go and get some type of help from their own servicer where they're not. So it's a trickle down effect, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of people, they're back to work, like I said, but there's going to be still some people out there that maybe have investment properties and they're the ones that were suffering.
Right.
If they extend it, will this continue to happen? And I think that's where I'm worried about. Some of these investors, they invested into a lot of properties. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things to really look at, because people that are really the ones suffering, great, you have 8, 9 investment properties, but those are the ones, if you can't pay your rent, you can't pay your rent.
Right.
what do you do? And how do you fix that? I guess there's not really an easy fix to that.
Outside of selling your property. I mean, and I had did a story about that, about, the larger property management companies or investors with these huge portfolios. I mean, they could probably fare better than like these small mom and pop landlords who have like 1 or 2 extra property, maybe 10. They're really getting hit hard by this moratorium.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like and there's really no like recourse for them. Like if their tenant's not looking to get rental assistance or isn't getting rental assistance, then they're not getting any money to pay for that property. So
is there any programs out there for people that, let's say that they're like rental assistance? Mm-hmm. Obviously some people aren't, but let's say that this whole thing goes and it's not extended.
Right.
Is there really programs out there for people? I hate to say, but Section 8's out there, right?
Right.
You got things out there like that. Is there other programs that people are going to be given at this point? Because I think what's happening is everybody doesn't want this pandemic to ruin people's lives.
No.
So it seems like they're pulling out all the stops to try to make that where it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, there are programs like CHAPS is one program. That's the rental assistance program. And, they recently got more funding, and their last estimate was that and this was discussed during that town hall meeting that I had covered, was that they have enough funding to help about 20,000 families.
Okay.
But see, what I'm hearing from folks that reach out to me who are seeking this assistance is that they can't get in touch with CHAPS. They aren't getting the money. So
really?
Yeah, so I feel like there's like this disconnect of here's this money that's available, but is it getting to the folks that need it? Right. Mm-hmm. So like that's something that like, we are looking into, but the money is there. It's just we're not, is everybody getting it?
Is everybody getting
it? Right.
One of the things too is I want to say you moved out here a year and a half ago, you said?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So I know when you moved out here, Vegas for the last few years.
Great.
Yeah, right. It's great. It seemed like there was a lot of opportunity with, you can find rental properties really easy.
Right.
A lot of places to rent. As far as rental properties and rent, you had no challenges coming out here when you first came out? It was just, you already had everything set up.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of challenges for people right now, just finding places to rent, because there's just not a lot of properties to rent or even properties to purchase. We're at low inventory.
Exactly.
You hearing any challenges there?
I'm hearing that, and I think a lot of that is because of the moratorium. Folks aren't leaving because they don't have to. Like,
right.
Why would I move into an apartment that I'm going to have to pay for if there's a moratorium and, I don't have a job, so I don't need to pay my rent. So, I mean, it makes it hard because I think that is partly what's like contributing to keeping the inventory so low. Mm-hmm. Like I talked to someone yesterday. He just got a job. He's a publicist with a company out here. And he even mentioned, he's like, I'm hoping to move there in 2 weeks, but we'll see if I find a place. So yeah, I think, a lot of folks are finding it hard because the inventory is just not there. What
do you think some of the challenges are for somebody that, obviously if you sell your house, I do home loans, and we get a lot of people that sell their home. They come over here with a ton of money. Mm-hmm. What do you think some of the challenges are, though, for people that are wanting to leave that state or that city and come here and try to get started here? It seems like Vegas is a very connected town.
Yeah.
And it seems like that there's not, like, you got to know somebody to get in somewhere. Typically, you obviously have an education background, so I'm sure they seeked you out or you found that out, and it, probably went out. And I think there's some jobs like that here, but it seems like Vegas, if you're somebody out there that's just trying to come here and get started,
right,
start a new business, start working on the Strip, or start working as, a dealer or something like that. What do you think some of the challenges are that they kind of deal with coming here? Because you're somebody from LA. Mm-hmm. Do you have any friends or anybody that has some challenges transitioning from one city to here?
So I was actually the only one out of like my friends and family to move out here. So, it was really, for me, it was figuring out like, well, where do I live? Because my only exposure to Vegas was the Strip, really. Yeah. And like when I would come to visit growing up, like we would go to the strips. Like it didn't occur to me that there is life outside of
Right.
Las Vegas Boulevard.
What did you think of Vegas? Like when I was younger and I thought of Vegas, I was just like, man,
I just thought of like
all
clubs.
it is the strip. Yeah.
Right.
Clubs and dancing and drinking and having fun. I didn't think there was actually life outside of the strip.
Like,
so
people live in Vegas.
yeah,
like,
right.
There's an economy outside of the strip.
Is that how you felt of Vegas? Like, do you feel that Vegas, people have a misconception that they can actually raise a family here, and there is activities here. Obviously, it's growing now.
Yeah.
But I mean, especially back 5, 10, maybe 20 years ago, do you think people have that same misconception about Vegas where they think it's just a hustle type of town? It's fast life in some cases, and then there's a lot of partying and a lot of industry. I mean, do you feel like a lot of people still feel the same way about that?
I think they did, but honestly, I feel like the pandemic has really changed that, because like folks that I've talked to for stories, especially like one I'm working on is about folks who have moved here from other states.
Yeah.
They're realizing that the opportunities here are just as good, or that they can, like you said, like they can start a family here. Like one guy I talked to who moved from LA out here, he even said, he's like, there's so much more that I could do here. Like there's Red Rock, there's, things you can do like as a family that before they probably would have never thought they could do.
Yeah. What is your favorite thing to do here besides obviously being a journalist, right? What do you like? What is your enjoyment? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do in Vegas?
That's hard because there's because pandemic started like not long after I moved here.
I started finding myself doing things that I didn't normally do. I would go to the park.
Yeah.
Right. And I would hang out at the park.
Just like walking around.
Yeah. Just walk around. But what's weird is like, it's my time to think.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a dog, started walking the dog. Okay. Right. And it's almost like my time to reset. Mm-hmm. I started to jog at night outside. Yeah. And I was like, I've never jogged outside. I would go to the gym and I'd be one of those guys that's just sitting there. And now I'm jogging and I'm like, man, I'm at 3. I'm looking at my Apple Watch. I'm at 3 miles, 4 miles. I'm just
pretty good.
Well, the thing is when you got nothing else to do, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's you start to really appreciate other things. And honestly, I don't feel like there's any different. The one thing that because I'm from California. Mm-hmm. I grew up Ranch Cucamonga area. Used to race dirt bikes out there. Used to do a lot of stuff. Yeah. And one of the things is the weather had more moisture in there. But overall, I don't feel like there's obviously summertime's crazy here. You can't like. What are your thoughts?
You just can't function.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
I remember I was just telling my coworker when we were covering this trip, I'm like, I kind of hope that we work from home through summer because I don't think I can handle being in this heat.
Yeah. So did you find yourself going outdoors more with a lot of activities, or was it just, I'm just going to kind of wait it out, because for me, I can't stay inside. I almost felt claustrophobic a little bit. So I had to find other things to do during that time.
Right.
But did Vegas grow on you in a different way? Like, do you have things that you do here, hobbies or places that you like to go that maybe is offered here that it's not offered somewhere else?
Yeah, it was definitely, same with you. Like, I found myself getting out more, and like Wetlands Park, I love it over there. Like, I'm over there all the time. Even though I live in Spring Valley, like, I was waking up early to drive like the 30, 40 minutes to just go walk over there because it's just so nice. And
Spring Valley's nice.
Yeah, Spring Valley's great. I like it. Yeah. But I liked walking over at Wetlands, or I'll run over there because I just like the setup. It's so great.
I really like the winter time here too because when it's like snowing.
Well, it's like winter, but in quotes.
right. It's weird because I would wake up and I would look at these and it would be like, man, this is great. Because it's like the mountains keep the snow and it's almost weird. It's almost like you're entrapped inside of a circle of mountains. It almost looks like it kind of feels that way to me anyways. But I would wake up. And so I just felt like there was more appreciation. I had more appreciation for outdoor life and just.
I agree. Yeah.
I think it almost forced you to do that, right?
Because it's so close.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I first moved here and I was commuting, like on my first day of work on a Monday, so I live off Flamingo. So I'm catching the 215 and like the mountains are right there. And I remember texting Mom, like, I can see the mountains. They're right in front of me. Right. Yeah. So it was like really cool how close everything really is.
How about the traffic? Is it same as LA?
Oh, so much better.
It's so much better, right?
Better. Yeah. And I remember this is when we were working in the office. Like, I hadn't hit any, for me, I didn't hit any traffic, like what my definition of traffic was. Because I was usually commuting, like when I worked in Orange County, it was like 2.5 hours total. And then when I worked in LA, I mean, I was doing like 3 to 4 hours a day just in my car, like
Wow.
for a commute total.
Isn't that crazy? 3 to 4 hours? My uncle used to drive 2 hours each way. He used to live in Montclair, and he used to have to drive to, I think it was close to Hollywood, or maybe it was towards the Valley. I'm not sure, but it was in LA. 2 hours each way in traffic. So he would literally have to wake up at 6 to be at work at 8.
Yeah.
And then when he got off at 5, he would get home at 7 or 7:30.
That was me, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
But I did it for so many years, and it was just like, this is just how it is. Like, it didn't occur to me like that is just an insane commute. I put so much mileage on my car.
Right.
Like, I have a 2015 like Toyota, and it's like almost 100,000. Like,
Man, you are driving. Wow.
Yeah, it was, and that's not just my commute. Like, I'm a reporter, so like we're going out in the field doing interviews, and yeah. So when I moved here and it was like 20 minutes to get to work, I was like, oh my God, like I have so much time. Like I can make dinner after work. But I remember like going home and seeing like cars backed up, and I actually got excited because I'm like, all right, now I get to see like what like Vegas traffic is like. And within like 5 minutes, it like cleared up. So I was like, okay, this is all right. I can get used to this.
So when you got here, I'm curious because we're gonna go talk about the moratorium again. Did you do anything as far as experience Vegas right when you got here? Because most people, when I got here, I was 22.
Yeah.
I think I lived on the Strip for a year. I really did. I think I camped out there just like some of those people, right?
That's my tent.
Yeah,
Don't touch it.
everything. I mean, I was down there and I was just trying to experience as much as I can because I came from, I wouldn't say it's a small town, but when you get into a situation where it's like entertainment like that,
right,
it's at your fingertips. You're like a kid in a candy store, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to check this out. What about you? When you got here, were you really interested in trying to maybe experience Vegas? Did you go to clubs? Did you go to anywhere that you were like, I always wanted to see what this was about?
Right. No, not really.
Not really.
Yeah, I know, which is really lame that I like did not go crazy, because I've like everyone I've talked to who's like moved here from other states said like, oh yeah, the first year it was just like wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't like that for me. Like I went to the Strip and like went out, but like I didn't really go to clubs. Like,
what's the craziest thing that's happened here since you've been here?
Craziest thing.
Anything crazy that you're like, man, this doesn't happen in LA? There's a lot that goes on in LA.
There is. I don't know. I feel like this is one of those questions where I'll get home and be like, oh my gosh, I should have used that.
No, but people just want to know, like, because I want to know. Like, my experiences, I've had a ton.
Of like craziest things you've ever.
Oh man, I've met celebrities.
Okay.
I've met celebrities up front at Planet Hollywood when the whole red carpet came out. I mean, I was meeting people like Bruce Willis and Demi Moore, and when she was with Ashton Kutcher, it's crazy because everybody wants to come here,
Right.
So I can tell you some stories. It's just like, wow, it's like crazy. But for you and for people, I always want to know like a little bit like what did you do? What did you experience? Because a lot of people, when they look at Vegas, how many people really live in Vegas or get that opportunity?
Right.
It's the entertainment capital of the world in most people's eyes. So, for you, I'm thinking, man, what did you do when you got here? Was it just, hey, I'm gonna do the journalist thing, and that's pretty much it?
Was. Yeah, it was just like focused on work.
Focused on work.
Which is really sad, but that's
no. Listen, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, look, you gotta be an expert at your craft.
Yeah.
But Vegas is definitely unique.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still so much more that like I have not seen.
Yeah, you've only been here a year and a half,
right? And most of it was at home.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's probably the first year was probably like tough because the whole pandemic, right? So it's like, how much can I really experience?
Exactly. And then I couldn't even convince my friends to come because they were like, no thanks. We'll stay home until this pandemic is over.
So going back to the moratorium, okay, so we're looking at what could happen to some of these people.
Right.
Do you really think people are going to be evicted consistently? And do you ever think that people are actually going to have some foreclosures? Meaning, have you talked to anybody? Do you know anybody out there that's giving you the insight or the scoop on what they're projecting or what they're seeing? Because I think a lot of people are like, you know what, I'm just going to wait until this thing happens and then I'm going to start, buying properties again.
Right.
Or, if the people that are being evicted, they can't wait to get them out.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think a lot of these people have been sitting on money, even if they're unemployed, maybe sitting on whatever they can. And it's tough. It's tough for people right now. Yeah. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen with this whole thing?
Oh, evictions are for sure going to happen. I mean, they were still happening even during the moratorium. I don't know how many actually got through the court system. But I know, like, I've had tons of folks reach out to me saying, hey, I have a 5-day, 7-day eviction notice and there's a moratorium. Why am I getting this? So, I mean, the moratorium didn't stop landlords from serving evictions. It just basically held it up in court.
Did they still get the people evicted? Because I heard that they were just evicting them anyways. And then they were trying to say push it through the court system.
Right.
What happened with that? Do you know anything about that?
So what's supposed to happen is, no, they're not supposed to be evicted.
Right. But
I have had folks reach out saying, yes, they were evicted. And that's a situation where I don't know, like, unless I know the exact details, I don't know for sure. I can't really say, like...
It's hard. It's case by case.
Right, exactly. And, like I had one person tell me that they were evicted and they know for sure that it was done illegally.
Illegally?
Yeah, where they're not supposed to get evicted. They were supposed to get more time. But it's like one of those things where unless I have all of the information, I can't.
There's a lot of people out there that should have empathy, I think. I mean, I'm not saying that get taken advantage of.
No.
But, there is people out there that lost their job.
Yeah.
They got no control over it. They're getting unemployment. Again, if you're somebody out there that has investment properties, it's really sorry for those people, because they're the ones that are probably suffering a lot. What about people that are owning, apartment complexes? Same thing, right? I mean, if you got people that are owning apartment complexes, you probably got a little bit of animosity between landlord and tenants.
Yeah.
Right. And that's probably where these things start to just compile and people start getting upset and, people just, things happen. So have you heard anything about with apartment complexes? Because it seems like they harbor a lot of people.
Right.
They harbor a ton of people that are looking at the same thing where did everybody take advantage of it? Like I'm sure that there's a good portion of people that took advantage of that. So what's happening with those, with the apartment complex? Is there anything that you've heard? Because how many people, I mean, what is it? Like a couple thousand sometimes, right? That they harbor?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they've got like thousands of units. I mean, there's tons of apartments here in Vegas.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a juggling act, and I feel for both sides. And like I said, like coming from like covering business and mostly focusing on companies, like I understand the position that they're in. Like they're running a business, they have staff to support. It's not just CEOs getting paid, it's everyone. They have employees and staff on the ground level to think about as well. But then you've got renters who, like you said, there's still folks that still don't have jobs. And it's not that they're not looking, it's just that they can't find anything yet. But they also have a family to support. And, they're taking unemployment, but, they're doing so until they could find, full-time work. So, you've got folks that are in really difficult positions on both ends. But I do think some apartment landlords are trying their best to work with tenants. Like the ones that I've talked to have said, we're trying to work with those who communicate with us and say, hey, I can't pay you right now. Maybe we can come up with a payment plan.
Yeah.
I know.
You got to hit it head on. Like, you can't be one of those people, in my opinion. This is just me.
Like, if you don't do anything and don't say anything and think that you'll just, like, get swept under and, like, somehow
out of
they
sight,
just won't
out of
notice
mind.
that
It's
you
like,
pay, like, thousands of dollars.
I do think you got to really hit the head, hit the head on the snake, right?
Right.
It's like you got to put yourself out there and say, look, it is what it is.
Right.
Some people have egos, some people... And it's tough, especially if you got a family. Let's say you got a family with kids.
Right.
Some people were in depression, because they're not providing for their family.
Right.
You hear some of these stories that people are having, depression problems. So I don't know. I think that it's an interesting situation, and it's a big topic that we're going to really have to see what's going to happen here because it's still uncharted waters.
Right.
We don't know where things are going.
Yeah.
We don't really know if they're going to extend. It's interesting to see, though, what people are going to do. Will they have a place to go if they get, evicted, which I'm going to assume most are if they're not paying. I would assume that. I can't say for sure, but I would assume because landlords are like, hey, man, I want to get paid.
Right.
And you got all these people moving to Vegas. You got all these people that are looking and desiring to move here and live here. Usually a lot of people want to move here and get started.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see that what they're going to actually do here or how this is going to unfold.
Right.
What are your thoughts? You think it's going to be, everybody's just kind of figure it out? I mean, are we all going to figure it out? What are we going to do,
I mean, that is something that we're tracking because, our team did have a discussion about our our coverage plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's just I see it like a spider web. Like, there's so many stories that are connected to this, whether it's homelessness, like, are we going to see a rise in homelessness? Like, what's the connection to
what is our percentage? I was looking at something.
I don't know.
I was looking at that Seattle had one of the highest crimes, and it seems, and I'm not saying that this is attached to it, but when you have homeless people in abundance,
right?
They're having issues, right? They're obviously trying to get back on track. I think a lot of them, some of them have some mental issues, but in the big cities that have the highest amount of homelessness, where people are living on the street, they have the highest crime rate, or they have the higher crime rate. I looked at Las Vegas, and Las Vegas doesn't have a high crime rate, and I think a lot of that is because I don't think we have a big population of homeless people. We have our share,
right?
But it's kind of secluded, right? It's kind of in a specific area where it seemed like when you go to these big cities, it's almost like every time you take a left or a right, all of the sidewalks are just lined up with people with tents. And so is it I don't think it's as bad here, right?
I'm not sure, like, because I really don't know what the percentage is here, and I don't want to guess. I would say it's lower though. I would say. I mean, Probably.
That's just my opinion.
I mean, and you have to think Vegas is still growing. We're still, in my opinion, we're still a new city.
We're a baby state.
Yeah,
city,
I remember
right?
driving up to do an interview last year, and the freeway just stopped. It just ended because they were still building it, which to me was what? Which you just won't find in more urban, much more urban cities like LA.
Our city's definitely growing.
Yeah, so I think that might be part of it too. Is just we're just not quite at the size of an LA or Portland.
Yeah. I remember 20 years ago when I flew out here, and I would look and you would just see nothing. You would see
That's what I heard. It was just
it was
dead.
crazy.
Or where I'm at in Spring Valley, one of our one of the editors, he lives near me, and he was like, yeah, I remember he's like, there was all dirt where you used to live.
Yeah. I came out here and people don't know where Rainbow's at. There was nothing beyond Rainbow. I would literally go to Rainbow and I would be like, all right, I can take my dirt bike or I can go off-roading.
Yeah.
And we used to do paintballing out there. So it's crazy because you go past that part, nothing out there. Now it's it goes, I can't even see when it stops. I think it just keeps going all the way to the base of the mountain. So it's interesting to see though where our city ends up, especially with that. I do feel that we're learning from cities like LA and Seattle and Portland, where some of the laws that are implemented, California's crazy. I think they got some crazy stuff. They're looking for taxes all the time everywhere.
I know.
But I think we're learning as a city and as a state, don't do the same things as California or Portland, because it doesn't work always. Learn from the pros and cons. Us being that we are a city that is relatively new, we have things that kind of, it's like your big brother, you see the mistakes that they did, or your sister, they did that before. I'm not going to do the same thing. You right?
You'd hope they wouldn't. Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's what I see happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And even with the moratorium, I'm just, I'm really curious to see how things play out. Really interested to see what the short-term and long-term impact is.
Well, I'm going to end this show. What I do want to talk about is I want to say thank you for coming on.
Thanks.
It was a pleasure. I want to have more good stories. Then when you come back, I know you deal with a lot of people. I know you guys are constantly meeting, right? You guys have a lot of meetings every day. Is that right? At the Las Vegas Review-Journal?
Yeah. Well, I know for the business desk, we meet as a group once a week.
Yeah.
On Zoom, but yeah.
I mean, it's crazy because I feel that, I know Eli, met him a couple times. You guys are kind of working. You're going to go to the real estate side, right?
So I'm transitioning to real estate beat.
There you go.
I tried to get away from it. I can't. It's wherever I go.
Well, that's what this show's about. It's about Vegas, but it's also about
Right.
financing and real estate and any changes that goes on. Real estate's a big topic. People want to move here. It's desirable. So it's good because you're going to be putting out more articles about real estate. And I'm really happy and glad that you came in.
Yeah, thanks
and
for having
I'm
me.
interested in seeing the new articles that come out, and we'll have you on. I don't know. We'll talk about that after the show. We'll see what you want to do as far as coming on here and what your capacity, what you can do.
Yeah, cool.
All right. So we got Sabrina Hudson. She's from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Everybody out there, I appreciate you guys coming in and going on this live stream. And if you guys have any questions or anything, make some comments in the comment section below. And we'll see you at the next live stream, which is tomorrow. Thank you for watching an episode of the French Workbench podcast. If you want to tune into past episodes, please subscribe to my channel now. Also, if you want to look at our audio only options, we do have iTunes and SoundCloud.